Hello and welcome to our second edition of 12378. You may remember the last time this program was aired on the channel back in 2017, and now we're here in 2020 with the second edition. For those of you who are not familiar with the program, we are all about speaking English and all about everyone who speaks English within this wonderful region that we live in. So this morning we have guests around me. We're going to start with Teri. Welcome, Teri.
Hi.
Nice to meet you, and thank you for coming and joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
We have Cybèle. Good to see you, Cybèle.
Good to see you too. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and welcome to our second edition. And last but not least, Frederica.
Hi.
Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So before we start, we're going to try and find out a little bit more about all of us. Teri, may we start with you?
Sure. I'm American. Come, everybody here. I'm from New Jersey, and I've been living in France for many years, 29 years to be exact, and happily living here in France, in Europe.
So this is not your first time on the show, actually.
No. A few years back, I was invited to talk about my business, Let's Cook in English. And I give cooking classes, and it's 11 years now for my business, and I'm happily continuing teaching English in a fun way, learning American recipes.
Very nice.
For children, adults, families.
And what made you come to France, and even more specifically, les Yvelines?
Well, I came to France because as a teenager, I got to experience being an exchange student in Germany. And the month that I was there, I realized I felt more at home in Europe than in the US. So I just decided then and there that I was going to live my life in Europe. So one day when I was frustrated with my job and where I was living, I just bought a one-way ticket and chose Paris. Spoke German better than French, but now that's not the case. And I met my future husband, who's French, Olivier, and when we decided we were ready to buy a house, we chose Yvelines because my husband was already working in that area. And so we're happily living in Yvelines, which I think has a lot to offer for people who live in the region. So too that we're just next to Versailles.
And you say you're American, but where are you originally from?
From New Jersey,
From
East
New
Coast.
Jersey.
Yeah, just next to New York.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Teri. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Alex.
Cybèle.
Yes.
Oh, this is the first time we're meeting as well.
Mm.
Thank you. And tell us a little bit about yourself. You have a link with Teri, passion for food.
Right.
You have 2 restaurants in Paris and Yvelines.
Yes.
Could you tell us more?
Yes, I've been a chef for 24 years, and I worked in various sectors in cuisine. I did events and pastries, and opened other restaurants in around New York. I'm originally from San Francisco, and I met my husband in 2006, who is French, who lived in Boulogne, and I moved here. I went back and forth to New York for 5 years. And finally, we decided that it was time to settle down. So we opened our first restaurant in Boulogne. And just our second restaurant, we opened in les Yvelines, in Grand Bay. And we opened it because we wanted to do our own vegetable garden. So we wanted something that was relatively close to Boulogne, but dans la nature. Donc we found this beautiful property with 1 hectare for, and we have a potager in permaculture of 1,000 square meters, and chambre d'hôte and a restaurant.
Nice.
Very interesting.
And we were attracted to this area because we're in the Haute Vallée Chevreuse, so it's a national forest, and it's very natural, and
It has a lot to offer.
yeah, it has a lot to offer, and it's not very far from Paris as well.
Yeah.
So it's
Best of
kind
both
of
worlds.
exactly.
Fantastic. And when you first moved to France, I'm sure because you also worked in the restaurant business in America, did you have any kind of culture shock coming here or experience about what did you think of France when you first arrived?
Well, it wasn't my first time in France. I actually, the first time I came to France was 16, and I fell in love with France. I felt much like Teri. I felt very much at home here, and I would come back regularly. So it was kind of a natural transition. So I had no culture shock because I was already comfortable in the culture from a young age. So no, nothing really shocking as far as that went.
Fantastic.
I eased right into the culture, and I spoke French already, so it makes things easier. The French language was always a passion of mine growing up. My mom actually lived in Paris in the 60s. She was a model in Paris in the 60s, so I kind of had those the influences from a very young age, and I used to tell people I was French when I was young. so it was kind of, just my natural habitat.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, both of you then.
Yeah.
And Frederica,
Yes.
lovely to have you. Thank you so much for coming. You work for Boston Scientific. What's your story? Where do you come from originally, and how did this develop?
So I'm half French, half American. My mom is French, my dad is American. I'm originally from California, San Francisco.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so my father also has family in New York, upstate New York. I've moved here after university, so in the 2000. And it was because my mother has her family here, so it's just we used to come back every summer because we've never really lived here until my father retired. So before that, my father worked for the United Nations, so we moved around a lot around the world. So I've lived in Africa and all that. So I don't feel really at home in France or in the States. There's more of an international community. But since being here, I'd say no, now I'm totally French. I feel more at home in France than I do when I go back to the States, which isn't very often, unfortunately, because it's expensive to go back. So, and yeah, I've been working for Boston Scientific International, which is an American company that sells medical devices to hospitals and around the world. And we have the headquarters that's here in Voisin-le-Bretonneux. Voilà.
And what exactly is your role in the company?
I'm an assistant for a business unit called HS&P, so Healthcare Solutions and Partnership. So it's the people who work in the division sell solutions to different hospitals and doctors with whom we have contracts. So we help the other divisions sell their products, to better sell their products. So and I'm an assistant to the team.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Well, welcome everyone, and this is lovely. We're all American, well, almost. I lived 12 years in California, so great. We're going to have some great opinions today. Shall we move on? We're going to move on straight on to our first subjects, but the idea of this show really is to talk about a number of topics, and we'll be discussing politics, but we are mostly here to listen to each other's opinions, have a nice conversation. Point being is that we are not here to do anything that we do not want to do.
Let's
So-
be happy.
Exactly.
Positive.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got a few subjects. We'll be talking about, first of all, COVID-19, and it is a little bit unavoidable, and it's not just a prominent subject dans les Yvelines, mais dans le monde entier. And then we will be talking a little bit about the US elections, as the first debate between Joe Biden and President Donald Trump is happening soon, on September 29th. And I thought it would be fun to end the show discussing our favorite meals, as we have two cooks and chefs here with us today, donc on profite. These subjects are both exciting and temporary, because as we are recording the show, we are having constant changes in our world between COVID and a historical election that is coming up. So move on to our first topic, COVID-19. As of today, there are new restrictions in all over France. We have had a rise of 11,000 cases in the last 24 hours. In Marseille, for example, we know that it is Code Scarlet, which means it's the code right before a local lockdown for Marseille, which means that all bars, restaurants, and cafes are shut for about 2 weeks. Here in Paris, we are very red, but that means that restaurants and cafes are still open past 10 p.m. We have a restriction of 10 people in gatherings, and yeah, bars, gyms are closed.
So just to know, each day some lawmaker could change the rules. So
Exactly.
it's always a surprise each week what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's constantly changing. But I first wanted to ask you, Cybèle, because of, you have these two great restaurants in both Paris and Yvelines. How are these new measures, starting of today, going to affect your business in comparison to actual lockdown? Is there a big impact, the fact that restaurants must close at 10 p.m.?
For us, no, it shouldn't be a problem. I mean, we don't have tables relatively late as it is. In les Yvelines, in Gambé, we're not affected at all at this point in time. So it's just it'll be just in Boulogne. But the alternative to shutting down completely is nothing. I mean, there's no comparison. We're respecting all the restrictions with wearing masks, etc. Unfortunately, a lot of people aren't, which is why we're getting to this point again.
The customers.
No, with the customers, no, I think it's up to the restaurants. Unfortunately, we had to take on this role of kind of policing our customers, which is, in the beginning, was very difficult because we didn't have masks obligatory in the streets, but in restaurants they were, but people were not respecting it. So we had to really be on people all the time when they get up to go to the bathrooms, etc. But so we have a different role, but it's a role that is a part of our responsibility. I think restaurant owners and chefs already have a very big role by keeping people safe as far as hygiene and everything. So it's a supplementary role that we have to take, but a lot of people aren't putting it in place. So restaurant owners are protesting, concerning these new measures. But if we're not taking the responsibility to do our part to keep this under control, I think it's just logical that there are going to be consequences. I just hope that these restrictions can be applied, and so we can kind of keep things under control, so we don't go into total lockdown again. Unfortunately, Marseille was in the same position as us a couple weeks ago, where they were closing at 10 o'clock. And now they're closed completely. So I hope that we're not going to be going down that path because, even luckily we've had a lot of help from the government, which is with chômage partiel and everything. If we compare with what's going on in the States, I would 100 times rather be here. I don't know how a lot of my fellow restaurant owners are keeping open. It's pretty catastrophic. So a lot of people criticize the government, but if you look at what's going on elsewhere.
Yeah. I think we did well here for the 2 months confinement.
Yes.
I think everybody really respected, and I just really appreciated that it was everybody together,
Yes.
Pretty
stay
amazing
home.
for French people to
Yes,
follow.
yes,
Exactly.
amazing. And then I think, unfortunately, after the confinement, they
It's a
didn't.
let go. Yeah,
It was a
people
total
to-
let go. I
Yeah.
think they should have gradually said, okay, everybody has to wear their mask.
Yes.
Because at the beginning, it was just the shop owners that had to wear the mask. I didn't have to.
Yeah.
And I think from day one after the release of the confinement, we should have been more strict with the mask
I think
wearing.
so,
Like
too.
Italy was.
And then maybe just say restaurants can open till 10 o'clock
Yes,
initially.
we were kind of going backwards.
Yeah,
It
so
should
I
have been
think that was a
progression, yeah.
mistake.
Yeah.
But we started off really well, I think, with the 2-month confinement.
They're probably
Well,
afraid that maybe there's people who are going to strike, and because it's summertime, so they just want to let people have a break. So it's
Yeah, but I also think since summer ended and back to
Oh, yeah,
school,
of
that
course.
was another mistake, as not really having strict guidelines saying, okay, we risk to have the second wave in a serious way. What can we do to prevent it or to make it less serious?
Yeah.
I know, yeah. I think, it's kind of natural that people, after being locked up for so long, that they kind of go crazy.
Well, also
Okay,
the
so-
younger generation, the
exactly.
college students.
So, I think, like you said, I agree that it should have been kind of more gradual
Gradual.
instead of just like...
Hindsight.
Yeah, well,
another
exactly. We
thing
live and we learn.
What I appreciate here is that there's always in every shop boutique, there's a bottle of the gel to
Yeah.
sanitize your hands, whereas when I speak to my friends in the U.S., that's not the case.
Well.
So that I was like surprised and then glad that I live here in the case, you have to have that bottle in every shop, every store.
Or even compared to the UK as well. It's
I'm not familiar with the UK.
it's there. It's not the same thing as
Yeah.
well.
But you see the results. You see the
Yeah, of
results in the
course.
UK and the US.
Yeah. No, definitely. It's It's the measures here were maybe strict, but it's I mean, at least people follow them, and that's what surprised me the most. Because French people are known for striking and not following the
course.
rules, and I thought that people wouldn't do it. So I mean, I had a pretty negative look on my own country, but I was everybody played the game, so it's
Yeah, but I also think another difference is France is a smaller country compared to the U.S. It's the size of Texas. It's, what, 1/5 of the population? When you think of the U.S., I think the problem is the U.S. is too big. That's my personal opinion.
but then you had the governors who are saying, okay, you have to lock down and all that, but then you had the president who says, no, you shouldn't lock down. I mean, do what
No, that's, there's
I'm
contradictory
sorry, there's federal government
messages.
and
People don't really know what they should be doing, and the people that follow the president to the letter, who's completely...
There's too much division in
Yeah,
the U.S.,
yeah.
and that's really, really unfortunate.
It's true, because in France it was definitely a kind of united, everyone together,
Yeah.
everyone living this together under the same conditions, and like in the United States, everyone
Well,
kind of
and
is
it-
doing their own thing.
And it depends on the states, because my sister, who's a nurse in California, in San Francisco, I mean, they're still in lockdown. My niece and nephew have not gone back to school, and they're in middle school and high school. They're still doing homeschooling, their computer and all that. And they're still strict, and they have less cases than the other states and all that. So it's just, I guess it
based on
depends.
each individual state.
Yeah.
California was
Yes.
really exploding at one
Yeah.
point in time, so I think that they had to...
Now
had to-
but they're locking down, and at least they followed everything to the letter compared to Florida or other states like that, which is, I mean, when you look at Florida beaches, you're just like, people, COVID is a hoax. I don't understand that.
Well, it's the
It's
message
just-
the message is coming from the top.
unfortunately.
And you have a lot of uneducated people, obviously, if they're
No,
not.
definitely
easily
yeah.
swayed. And,
brainwashed,
Yeah,
practically.
no, I say that all the time. It's complete. I mean, Donald Trump's tactics are propaganda
Yeah.
and brainwashing techniques. I
No,
mean,
just-
like many dictators.
They'd
I mean,
rather listen to a president who has no scientific knowledge compared to Dr. Fauci, he's been saying the same thing. Or OMS
It's
as well.
disturbing. It's very
It's-
disturbing.
It's
Yeah.
scary.
it is.
It's
It's a scary time on so many levels in the States. I mean, what we were talking about, you mentioned the elections and everything, and well, it's a big turning point, depending on what the outcome is going to be.
The
So
election day is not soon enough.
I know.
Too bad it's not tomorrow.
I know.
I'm
I know.
scared for the outcome, though.
Yeah.
I'm very scared.
Biden's ahead, but not by that much.
Well,
Not by enough as far as
4 years
I.
ago, they said that Hillary was ahead.
I know.
And it was mind-boggling
Well-
when you woke up in the morning and turned on the news, and unbelievable.
Well, Donald Trump is a desperate man at this point in time, and he's willing to do whatever it takes.
Oh, look at the mail-in ballots.
Yeah,
It's
I mean, he's doing.
insane.
He was going to take every crooked turn that he can to win this election, and even if he loses,
He's going to do everything he
he
can.
can
He's
to-
gonna-
Well, hopefully, we've
to-
got a stronger Democratic Party that's now aware of what's possible and is taking
the
precautions.
problem is the Republicans, because they're all terrified of him, and
It's party over country
Yeah.
for them, and
Yeah, exactly.
It's scary. That's why
Exactly.
when you see what they did in 2016 for the Supreme Court nomination, they were saying no president the last year, on the year of election, should be able to nominate a Supreme Court, and now look, they're all going
That
against
just
them.
makes me so mad.
I know.
It's just
just-
really.
And they even asked her to recuse herself, and she said no. So already there's something,
Yeah.
Well, time will tell.
the moral thing to do would be to recuse herself. But
Yeah, no, definitely. But she
Alex, any more questions for us? We're sort of like taking over. So you American women.
No, it's great. It's great. It's great to see such passion in these debates. And I think, we've covered Corona so far. We're going to go straight into the U.S. elections. And we're embracing then these new measures, which is fantastic, and hoping that we won't end up like Marseille. But I'm glad that it's not going to impact your businesses more than the actual national lockdown, economically or psychologically. Moving on to the U.S. elections, there's a quote that I wanted to talk about from The Atlantic that also fits the COVID situation, actually, but it says that COVID nor the American elections is going to break America. It'll expose that America was already broken. So we've already tapped into this a little bit about the misinformation that happens between states having different governors, and then the symbolic Donald Trump, for example, just for the mask, who has been seen multiple times without the mask. And now he's up and coming for the ring elections. And I mean, I think we forget that elections are extremely political, and that people are going to vote for Trump, as you said, because maybe of fear tactics. He has a lot of strategies put into place. But what makes these elections so monumental and very turning point is that not only we're in a pandemic, that we're facing global warming, but this is the first time that American elections, or very rarely, have been so polarized. So I wanted to know, what does that mean personally for you, being an American citizen? Are you going to vote? How is it voting done as Yvelines if you haven't done so already, because it's happening at the moment? And especially because of the pandemic, the voter system in America, putting the bills, are you going to fax? Are you going to mail? What is your take?
It's funny because I did it. I used to be able to do it online, and I was looking last week, and you can't. So I have to I think I even have to re-register and everything. So, but it's before October 9th.
I've already voted.
Yeah.
I received already my mail-in ballot, so I voted last week.
Yeah.
But that's, I guess, I don't know why that is, but it's I've already received it. But my dad, he's registered in New York, and he still hasn't received it.
Yeah.
But I saw that people have already voted by the mail-in ballot, so I don't receive anything by mail. I just receive everything by email, which is so much easier.
Yeah, exactly.
But then make sure you have a lot of postage.
Yeah, no, I haven't received
it's-
anything yet, but I didn't. Luckily I looked soon enough, because the last time I voted in France, I did it. There was a form online, and you could fill out and just send.
Send it. Yeah, that's what I've done.
Yeah,
just printing
so
it
it's,
out.
I didn't even realize it had changed. So already it's like, oh, what's going on?
Because he's trying to change everything.
Yeah, I know,
that's
exactly.
Why
It's like a little suspicious if
Yeah.
But
He's going to try every scare tactic possible.
yeah,
So no,
and
definitely.
make it as difficult as possible for people to vote.
People vote. You have to vote.
Yeah, no,
Well,
definitely.
I'm not in the same category, because I asked for my French nationality so I could vote here. And because I live my life here, and I like to feel like I'm more European, and I don't live my life in the U.S., I do go back to visit family and friends. I have never voted since I moved here. I was never really into politics, but I just feel like I live my life here. I've raised my children here. I feel I should vote here in France and in Europe. But I also don't like the idea in the U.S. that it's not every vote counts, it's the electoral college. And
That
I'm
has
just
to change.
really frustrated with that, and I'm wishing one day that changes, because I just think it's all up to the swing states. And that really frustrates me.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like my one vote,
would make-
in New Jersey would count. It's the swing
California as
states.
well.
Yeah, it's true.
And I just think that's not fair.
Yeah.
And that's probably another reason why, I have a lot of people saying, you need to vote, you must vote. I'm like, no, there are reasons why I don't.
Yeah.
I vote here in France, but not for
I
the US.
understand that.
That's
So
understandable.
the electoral college is just, it has been, it needs to change.
It's
Because
I mean, look, Hillary
archaic.
Clinton had-
It has nothing valid of what
it was
what-
valid
it's-
200 years
yeah,
ago,
exactly.
but no
not
longer.
anymore.
But
It's,
look, Hillary Clinton had more of the popular vote,
Than-
even Gore,
yeah.
and they
No.
both lost out. I just don't think that's fair.
Well,
it's not.
as the leading polls, the opinion polls are showing, yes, Joe Biden is in the lead, but because it's not decided on national share, and
Yeah.
Right. It's the swing
Everything in
states.
People vote for the people there. They vote in Congress and Senates and all that. They don't vote for they vote for their party. So it's
It's
not
a
fair.
false democracy. a
Yeah,
little
Yeah.
bit,
it
you
is.
know.
Yeah.
It is.
So-
And also the fact that I find that in the state there's only 2 parties that you can vote for. I mean, living here in France, where all right, we may have too
There's
many.
too many.
There's too many, especially in the last election. But at least there's more choice, and there's here it's just Democrats or Republicans. I mean, it's just no. It's. I guess the Americans are very anchored into their traditions, and I mean Bernie Sanders. I had voted for him for the Democrat nomination, but people are afraid of him because they call him socialist, and that's just when you think
Name-
about it, it's
Name
just
tagging.
it's
Yeah.
scary. It's just too bad. They need to be more open, but I guess maybe in time.
And these
Yeah,
people who strictly vote Republican because I'm a diehard Republican, even though Trump is a nightmare,
No.
they're still going to stay with the Republican Party, and that's...
It's scary. It's very scary. No, it's true.
Yeah, it's kind of, their ideas are kind of like grouped together, and it's like masses. It's they're not very individualistic, and people just kind of take things at face value and don't dig to find out really the real facts. You know,
That's true. And no matter what he says, I mean,
It's fake news. When it's against him,
and
fake news.
When he was talking about the pandemic, that maybe people should inject themselves with Lysol and hand sanitizer and all that. It's just like, I mean, when you listen to that, hello, it's just, I don't understand how people can still follow him after that.
He has no
but-
respect for people, for the
Anyone.
country.
oh, it's
Yeah.
about him.
Yeah.
It's about him. It's all about him.
Yeah.
And he's facing now, if he's not reelected, he's facing, a lot of, he's facing jail time in
Yeah.
the state of New York, which he won't be protected anymore. But they can't touch him on a federal level. But
On
he,
local level, yeah.
Well, they just
They're-
released
they're-
his taxes finally.
oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
It just
he-
happened late yesterday.
Yeah, he
Oh,
hasn't paid
Yeah, it's in the
like,
news this
yeah.
morning.
Oh, I didn't.
Oh,
I
yeah.
missed that.
Yeah, he declared only $750 or something like that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
he
And
said he
since
was not
then, he
making
hasn't
money.
paid any because
Yeah.
he's had so
Well,
many
Since
I'm
lawsuits.
not
2000.
surprised.
Oh, no, it's
but
not-
I'm
it's no
surprised that
surprise.
I'm
No.
surprised that they got released.
Yeah.
Actually, that's well,
Well, so we'll see what happens
Yeah.
now.
The self-declared billionaire that didn't pay any taxes because he was not making any money. It's just
Well, I'd like to hear what his supporters are saying about this now.
they'll probably say it's fake news.
oh, they will.
Well,
I think
oh,
we-
well, Trump
that's
is already
fake
saying
news.
it's fake
Yeah.
news.
He's
I know,
already decided that.
Yeah.
As Americans all living in France, would you say that maybe Americans living in France are more against Trump than actual Americans?
That's a good question.
It depends, I guess. I mean, they might say it because it's here. They're here in France and they're more open. We're more socialist here. But it depends on who you talk to. Maybe deep down they might say it, but I'm sure there's some hardcore Trumpers
Really?
here.
I haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't met anyone that's
I don't
pro-Trump.
know that many Americans here. I mean,
Yeah,
I have more French friends or European friends, so we are all against Trump, and we're just, and my family as well as my father and my sisters. But it's just, I'm sure there's some hardcore Trumpers that are living here. I'm sure. I mean, there has to be.
Yeah, I don't know any, but
No.
I'm like as well. I don't know very many Americans in France, but.
It's weird
There's-
how we don't. I mean,
Yeah,
we're Americans
I
and we
know.
don't.
I know a
we're
lot of
not friends,
Anglophones,
yeah.
English-speaking people, but
It's
no,
like,
I really.
It's like we have an abhorrence for them. It's like we don't want to. I mean, I'm proud to say I'm American, but it's I don't want to be. I mean, where we live as well. I mean, and we live in Villepro in the middle of Yvelines, so there's not that many Americans either. But where I work as well, there's not that many Americans either. So it's just it's funny how all three of us have not that many friends who are Americans.
Well, it's interesting, Frederica, because it is international.
It is
Plus,
international,
yeah, so
but
you
it's
would
also,
think-
we have the international headquarters and the French headquarters. So it's, I mean, if it's international, it's mainly people from the UK or from around, or French-speaking, English-speaking French people like you. So there's not that many Americans. I mean, there's maybe one or two, but not that much.
When French people know that you're American, or would you say that they are open to discussing culture speaking? Is there a good balance between Americans and French citizens?
Yes, I would say so. I mean, there, especially with the presidential election that's coming in now, so a lot of French people are asking,
Yeah,
what's your opinion?
exactly.
What do you think? I mean, who do you think is going to win? So, I mean, French people love to debate and talk. So, yeah, no, when I meet new people, they ask for the opinion and they say, what do you think of this? I mean, and then they start ranting and raving about Trump. So then when they realize that I'm on the same board, the conversation becomes more like we're making jokes about him and all that. But no, otherwise, yeah, no, a lot of French people, I mean, they are very curious about the States because I know that a lot of friends would love to go and visit the States.
And a lot of people do. A lot of French families do travel
Yeah.
to the U.S. for their
And
vacation.
they love it. I mean, it's a
Yes.
fantastic place to go, especially, I mean, the cities and even the States is a beautiful place to go and visit. I mean, there's a wilderness, there's a lot of things to visit. And then there's the East Coast and West Coast, and even in the Midwest as well, there's a lot of things to do. And it's just too bad that we have a government and a president who just doesn't make one people to visit right now and not spend their money there. So we'll see what happens in 1 month.
Speaking of that, I was thinking about this, the fact that Trump refuses to have a peaceful transition. If he
That's unbelievable.
ends up losing the election. Are we worried about this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are we worried?
Very
Yes,
much
of
so.
course.
Very much so. I'm worried that he's going to, it'll come down to bloodshed, really.
Yeah.
I mean, he's totally capable.
Yeah, definitely.
He's already turned these rogue military militias against the people in Oregon, etc. And I mean, we don't know anything where these people come from. I don't know.
He's like a child who's going to be dragged out. Well, if he loses, he's going to be dragged out screaming and kicking and
No,
It's amazing he went
I'm
from
afraid that
8
he's going to turn these militias against
Yeah,
the people
of
if there are protests.
It's
If he
amazing
wins or if he doesn't win, either way, it's going to be.
I heard on the news last week, there's because they do reports and all that, because people usually talk about election night, and these journalists in France, in the States, French journalists were saying it's not going to be an election night, it's going to be an election week with all the mail-in ballots from overseas that are going to be coming in slowly but surely. They're saying that maybe he's going to win on the night, but then once the mail-in ballots are coming in, and that might change the tide. That's why it's called election week.
Bush and Gore went back and forth, back
Yeah.
and forth,
Right,
back and
right,
forth. Great, it's going to happen again.
Yeah,
But look, we went 8 years of peaceful times with Obama
yeah.
to a complete turnabout.
Wow. And a lot of people
With
are
Trump.
still, I mean, luckily a lot of Trump, people who voted for Trump in 2016 have realized that I mean, it was a mistake. He didn't
Right.
do everything that he promised, and it's just whatever he said is just, I mean, he didn't do everything he said. So luckily there is still,
That
people are
percentage
changing.
that are going to.
But there's still a lot of people
Unfortunately,
who are,
he's saying that he's done everything he
And
said he
it's
was going to
not.
do. Yeah, but the people that listen to him, they're not going to fact check.
No, of course
I mean,
not.
even if they do fact check, they're going to say the facts are fake
Yeah.
news. But
he's
no,
done everything,
yeah.
but it's policies that have been put in place before he became president. So it's just, but it's me. So it's,
No,
it's scary.
it's going to. I mean, I think either way, it's going to be very
And
tendu.
and I don't even want to think that if he wins. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh,
I am
my
just.
God.
There's a
that's
chance.
my-
Unfortunately.
It's,
I-
yeah.
I mean, everyone said he wasn't going to win last time, so.
That's why I'm,
And-
in my head, I say, okay, he's going to win, so that I'm not
Exactly.
disappointed.
Well,
Because
exactly.
it's, I did 4 more years with him, and then it's just, I saw on a T-shirt, one of the supporters said, okay, 4 more years with Trump, and then it's going to be Ivanka, and then it's going to be Don Jr., and then it's
Yes,
going to be
yeah,
Barron. Oh my God, no.
No, but already he's changed so much demographic and the mentality of the states in the 4 years he's been here. I mean, thinking that 4 years, you were not going to recognize, already, we already don't recognize the United States as we do.
It's so divided.
And it's
I've
we're not
never seen it
going,
in
we're
such
not
a
going to
bad
recognize it
state.
at all if
No,
he
no.
has another 4 years.
No.
I mean, it's going to move to more and more towards a dictatorship.
Yeah. And
I mean,
radicals, yeah, and they're all coming out of the woodwork when you
Yeah.
see what's happening. I mean, everything is just it's scary. It's very, very
I
scary.
mean, he has everyone in his pocket. He has the Justice Department
Yeah.
with Barr. If he gets,
Senate.
everyone. And,
It's just, it's scary.
I'll see the Supreme Court. If I'm not sure what's going to go on with that, but.
Okay. I think we talked enough about Trump.
We're going to move on to our last subject. So this evening, because we're running out a bit of time, we are lucky to have Cybèle and Teri, who have a passion for cooking. So I wanted to talk a little bit about cuisine, what your favorite recipes are, Franco-American dishes, whether you prefer French food, American food, and your favorite meal from both of them.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. I'm so passionate about food, and always have been. And I grew up eating very well. My mother cooks as well. So I think my favorite meals would be the meals with my family as a child growing up. I think that's like Thanksgiving and Easter and everything. Those would be my favorite meals. I don't have a favorite dish specifically. It's kind of like whatever I feel like eating that day is going to be my favorite dish.
You specialize in French cuisine. bio, local products?
Yeah, I don't. It's hard to categorize my. I mean, people will say that it's French cuisine because you know there's a lot of work that goes into it and it's refined and il y a la recherche dans les saveurs et dans les techniques, but it's kind of my cuisine. I don't know. It's
Unique cuisine de Cybèle.
so it's but and it's yes, it's all based on local produce and from our vegetable garden, which is why we moved to the Yvelines in the first place, because we're working with local producers already. That was one step, and it was just going one step further to get even closer to la terre and le produit. And there's nothing more enjoyable than going out to the garden and pulling out your own vegetables. And we also work.
Tastier.
We work the land as well. So we really have our hands. We get our hands dirty.
Satisfying,
So
yeah.
And there's it's vegetable garden to table. You know, it's not farm to do. It's vegetable garden. You'll walk a few feet and we're in the kitchen. And it's also that's where my inspiration comes from. Is from the produce. If I'm having a little bit of trouble coming up with a recipe, I just go in the vegetable garden and it all comes together.
Sure.
So yeah, the favorite dish I would have a hard time saying, but it's more of the memories growing up with my mom cooking and stuff like that. So, and then being around family, that would be my favorite meals.
That's very lovely. Yeah. Frederica, Teri, favorite meal, favorite recipe, Franco-American?
I'd say our favorite meal is like Cybele's home-cooked meals. Is my father as well has a potager, a vegetable garden. So we came back from a weekend here with about 10 kilos of tomatoes. So just I'm gonna have a nice tomato, and tomato salad.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick, I would say it's from the southwest, confit de canard with les pommes de terre salades. That's just, I love that area of foie gras and all that. I know it's. I mean, a lot of people don't like the way the foie gras is made, but it's absolutely delicious.
Terroir.
Yes. And American, it's dessert. I love carrot cake and cheesecake, so it's just.
That's my recipe this week for my classes.
It is?
New York cheesecake
Oh, good to see
and
Teri.
zucchini bread, which is similar to carrot cake.
Lovely.
Because you teach kids a lot as well.
Yes,
Is there a
yes.
favorite
And
recipe
I have
you
a
like
lot
to
of
teach?
requests for the little children, école primaire, maternelle. So I have the parent and the child that comes and works together as a team to make the recipe, and it's a lot of fun. You know, smelling the spices, the cinnamon. They love to grate the carrots, mixing everything, breaking the eggs. So
It's fun.
I think pendant le confinement, the
Yeah.
confinement, there was a lot of baking going on.
Yes.
I mean, I really never spent so much time in the kitchen, and because we were having gorgeous weather,
Yeah.
and we were confined, and I was lucky down the street, I could just walk to the convenience store, and he had all the fresh local fruits and vegetables, and I would just each day come home and make something new and fabulous in the kitchen, and
We had more time.
more time, so you were more relaxed.
Yeah,
less
there was
stressed.
a pénurie de farine in
Yes.
France. So
Yeah.
there was
flour.
there was no more.
Definitely.
But I think for eating, it's enjoying the fruits and vegetables for the season, because they have
definitely.
more taste, the colors that change with the seasons, the recipes that change with the seasons. I get bored if I eat the same. I can't eat the same cuisine every day, or
same
even
way.
leftovers.
I'm
I
same
just
way,
want something
yeah.
new, and Italian one day, Chinese the next, French the next. And my favorite is Tex-Mex. I just fun food that has the spices and healthy ingredients, the black beans, the corn, the tomatoes, the salsa, the
It's
cilantro.
hard to find here in
Oh, yes.
France. Very hard. So it's when
Yeah.
we go back to California, it's just I gorge on burritos and fajitas and things like that.
You
because
can
it's-
make your own.
I know I can make my own, but it's not
Which
the
I
same
learned
thing.
to do during the confinement
Yeah.
with my own tortillas.
Yeah. Wow. Then you had a lot of time. Because that's wow.
It's not as complicated as you think, but yeah, you do have to have time. It's all
Time
about
and then experience. The more you make it, the
Yeah.
easier it becomes to make. So
Definitely.
I've mastered hummus now, which I thought was, make hummus? No, you just buy it in a Greek store. No, I
That's so
make it
good.
now myself, and then with beets, which is
Yeah, that's
even
great.
I like better with beets. So
Oh, that's great, yeah. Well, guys, I want to thank you so much. We are coming to the end of the show.
can you tell us what your favorite meal is?
Oh, my favorite meal is lasagna.
Yes.
Although I do love macaroni and cheese, and I saw that you were teaching the kids here.
Lasagna. I love making lasagna
Very
and
good.
eating it. Yes.
It was very, very nice. Guys, thank you so much for coming and being filmed today. Cybèle, thank you for taking your day off to come here.
Yes.
Terry, Frederica, thank you so much during these difficult times to be coming to the plateau and having a really nice conversation. It was
a
amazing to meet
pleasure.
all of you.
It was a great pleasure.
I think we had a really, really good time.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll be back next month with a new show.
Oh, good.
If more spectators are interested. I think it's a really, really good idea from Channel 78 to integrate more English speakers because, mine de rien, there are.
Yeah.
And dans les
Also,
Yvelines.
the French people want to practice their French, their English, so they could watch the show and listen to English-speaking people speak and practice,
Listening,
comprehending.
yeah.
No,
No,
it's
it's
great.
like I said, it gives a different perspective as well.
Sure.
From people.
Absolutely.
And I think when you get Americans together, they talk differently than the French. It's, different mannerisms,
yeah.
movement,
Absolutely.
the way we express ourselves.
So 1, 2, 3, 73. Edition number 2 is now over. Thank you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.